Welcome to Pop Culture Retro, which was recently voted the 15th best podcast by the residents of the Golden Years retirement community in Boca Raton, Florida. Each show, we'll revisit some of your favorite pop culture memories with insider and outsider perspectives. Now, please help me welcome your hosts, Ike Eisenmann and Jonathan Rosen.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of Pop Culture Retro. I'm one of your hosts, Jonathan Rosen, along with Ike Eisenmann. And today we are thrilled to welcome a writer, director, producer, and also one of the members of the 80s group, the New Monkees, Dino Kovas. Dino, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and it's truly an honor.
Honor's ours, thank you. And but I want to start off by saying that, I'm a big fan of the New Monkees, love the album, still listen to it, watched the TV show in the 80s, was disappointed when the whole thing stopped. As you know, we previously had Larry on.
Me too.
And you were gracious enough to agree to come on as well. So we'll get to the New Monkees in a minute, but I want to start by asking you, now you grew up in Michigan?
I did, Dearborn, Michigan. But I was born in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, we left.
Yeah, I'm never sure if these are good places to be or to leave.
Right, exactly. Believe me, the Ohio, well, except for Larry. Well, boy, did I get myself in the pickle.
There goes our Ohio audience.
Okay, right. Well, it was kind of deep Ohio, like near Wheeling, West Virginia, Ohio. But it was a nice place to be born.
Well, that's a good thing. Now, growing up, you were more interested in filmmaking than music. Is that right? Me and my friend Steve Herniak, who I grew up with, we used to sit in his room and we used to draw cartoons. And while drawing cartoons, we would listen to music. I started playing like in 5th grade, but at the same time, I was always interested in like the visual aspect of things. So kind of went from cartoons, and then my uncle had a Super 8 camera. This is kind of typical. I've heard this story from like other filmmakers, like, yeah, so then I got a Super 8 camera, which is really what happened. And we started making these dopey little films. And then video came out. Now I'm kind of speeding everything up. Video came out in the 80s. And I think you guys might remember there was a public access channel, on most cable companies, right? Yeah, sure.
It was a time when cable television didn't have like 1,000 stations. There was maybe 30, and right. And the rest was blank. Like you would switch the channels and it would be like just nothing's there. So what Group W Cable of Dearborn, Michigan did. They had classes where you can go, you take a class in order to use their equipment. So me and Steve Herniak, we were like, yeah, let's go do that. And, their editing facility, the editing stuff. So this was about like 1981, 82. So we took the class, and we would just check out the equipment, and we would go shoot dopey things, And one of the first things we did was a thing called Jockey, which was a takeoff of Rocky, and Jockey Strapola, and we made it, and then we played it on public access. And then all of a sudden, like all these people at the public swimming pools, at the public parks, they were like, "Hey, it's Jockey!" And we're like, "People are really watching this stuff?" Like, we didn't think people would be watching public access, So then we just kept making things, and people were watching. Then what had happened was there was a rock promoter from the 60s. His name is Russ Gibb. And he was, he's credited with doing the Paul is dead rumor, because you can look him up. He used to run the Grandy Ballroom in Detroit. And at the Grandy Ballroom, you know, the Who played there, Hendrix played there, Iggy and the Stooges played there, and that was his place. So what he did, fast forward to like 1984, Russ Gibb started this show called Back Porch Video, which was something that was produced, created, whatever you want, directed by kids. So every Saturday night, Group W cable would just be overrun by like 30, 35 kids, right? And I'm talking kids, I'm saying like maybe from between 12 to 18, right? That, you know, that were doing, you know, the show. We had two adults there. One, Paul Streffen, I think he was like 22, and
The adult.
adult, and Kurt Vinup, who was, I think at the time like 31, 32, but those were the producers of Back Porch and babysitters, basically. You know, making sure we don't come in intoxicated and all that other stuff. Anyways, Back Porch Video was it went live from 9 p.m. until 1 p.m. Every Saturday night, and it was broken up into 1-hour shows. So Steve and I, Herniak, we would just go out. I mean, all the kids did. They would go out, make videos, and then show them on their shows. And that's what I did for like 2.5 years, right? Meanwhile, I was playing drums with a band called Snake Out. It was a surfabilly band, and you know, and Len Putch, who was the guitarist, came down to visit Back Porch Video, because Back Porch Video actually had a pretty decent audience, but we never thought anybody was watching. So we were like just being goofy, saying, you know, shit off the top of our heads, you know, but we always knew Russ Gibb was watching. So we were trying to keep it professional, but yet, like, you know, we had to be careful, you know. So, you know, there was a red phone in the booth. So, you know, if we did anything bad, that phone would ring and we'd be like, oh shit, we're in trouble, you know. So anyway, so, you know, so I played drums with Snake Out, and I was doing this video show, right? And I didn't have cable because my mom was a single parent, and she raised me and my sister, and we just never had cable. So she never even saw the show that I did, you know. It was,
oh no.
to bring her tapes, you know, and one time I had her call in, and my mom is this, you know, she's a little Greek lady with a pretty thick accent, you know, so it was cute. Anyways, I digress. So then we heard about my friend Steve's little sister, Anna Herniak, told me about auditions for new Monkees, right?
Wow.
And through MTV. And I didn't have MTV, so I didn't know. So she relayed the message for me. And I was like, well, you know what? I'm in front of the camera. I've been doing it for a while. I'm not shy. You know, I can play drums, I think. So Steve and I actually flew to New York, and we did an open call. But are you ready for this? The way that I got the money, well, I guess I actually, you know, there's a line that I use in the show, and it's true. During my audition, I said, you know, my car got hit twice in 6 days, and it's true. You know, the one time, some older gentleman from Group W backed into my car, and he was like, let's keep this ourselves. Here's some money. I was like, okay. And then the other time I was in Ohio at a party. So me and a friend, Stevie Cascardo, we walk up to a house. I think I've had too much coffee. This is my second one. But this was bizarre because we don't know these people. My friend says, I think there's a party. And I'm like, okay, let's go. We're standing on the porch of this house. We're getting ready to knock. All of a sudden we hear the squealing of the squealing of tires, like, as we turn around, I see this car literally like in the middle of the street, but then it literally jumps on top of my car and then drives off. And I'm like, oh. So I was like, what have I happened just now? And we go into the house. I start asking people, do you know who it is? Do you know who it is? I wasn't getting any answers. I got into a little fight in the house. Then I finally found out who it was. The kid's mom gave me money, and we got the money to go to New York. So we auditioned in New York.
So it was literally a series of accidents that got you to New York.
Nope. Ike, you're on that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this was like in '86. Now the Monkees had already had this like whole resurgence at this time. So they were on MTV all the time. There was a new tour and album. Had you been a fan of theirs also, or no?
Oh, completely. I mean, I was a fan. I was like what I call the second generation fan, because I caught them like what, 74, during those reruns, right? And again, there wasn't cable, right? So there was like the syndicated Monsters, Gilligan's Island, the Monkees, you know what I'm saying? There's all those shows that it's sad because like this generation just they don't even get that. But anyway,
my daughter's a huge Monkees fan, actually.
I'm just talking about there's that period of time where all we had was syndication. We didn't have the phones, we didn't have TikTok, we didn't have this. So all we can do is entertain ourselves with that and the all new Mickey Mouse Club, which I was a fan of. Anyway, so yes, I was a Monkee fan, and oddly enough, I thought, and I remember this vividly, I was at Peaches Records and Tapes. I thought when I was watching the Monkees in the early mid 70s, I thought I was watching a show that was airing now.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's bizarre because then I remember being at Peaches Records and Tapes, which was this huge, it was like Tower Records or whatever. And I saw a magazine, and the magazine had Dolenz, Jones, Boyce, and Hart. And I remember staring at it and looking at Mickey and looking at Davey and going, what? And it was just like, whoosh. It was like, I'm not watching this show. It's not on now, because I didn't know, I didn't know like, oh, it's syndicated. And it was back in '66. So I picked up the magazine. I start reading about Dolenz, Jones, Boyce, and Hart. I bought their album. I went and I bought all of Nesmith's, first, and then I'm like, then I found the First National Band, and I'm like, wow. So it was like this whole new world opened up to me, and I just wanted to eat it all up, so it was like, I still listen to Dolenz, Jones, Boyce, and Hart. I still listen to, the First National Band. My wife rolls her eye, she'll roll up. She's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm a fan. So anyway, yeah.
So you find out about, obviously, this audition for something that I'm sure was pretty darn exciting to you. And you've got to travel to go do it. Was your mom on board with you going and participating in this?
Was she on board? Well, I don't remember asking. Yeah. Because, at that point, it was like, I was working. I was living at home, but I mean, I was working. I was, I was doing stuff. So
Yeah, I think she was, she was into it about that, you know.
Well, you just mentioned like the auditions were in New York and California, and
Right.
you went to the New York one. You were even one of the people featured in the video, the Search for the New Monkees video. I saw, I've been watched that many times, and MTV was really involved in promoting this. And so, what's going through your mind when you get there and see all these people auditioning and MTV involved?
It was kind of bizarre. So Steve and I, when we flew to New York, we stayed at this place, and I still have the card for it, the Mansfield Hotel. We had nowhere to stay. It was like we had these small little bags, and so we show up in Manhattan, and I found a thing that said, come to SIR Studios, and we get there. We found the Mansfield Hotel, and I asked the guy up at, behind the thing if like he had a place to stay. You got any rooms? And he says like, no, sorry, no rooms. So we're walking out, and as we're walking out, there is I'll get to your question. As we're walking out, there was a cabbie who was hassling this like foreign lady, and he was like getting kind of aggressive, and I stood up for her, and I was like, I stood up for her. I chased the cabbie off, and the lady was thank you, and then the guy behind the counter is like, hey, I have a room for you. So I was like, okay, cool. He goes, yeah, there's no, you have to sleep on the floor. There was 2 couches actually. Anyways, so Steve and I, we go to bed. We read the little audition thing that says, be there at 8 a.m. Don't come early. So we're like, okay. So we get there early. There's nobody in line. Ike, you'll appreciate this. There's nobody in line, and we're looking around. Now, I'm not an actor. I don't know about open calls. I don't know about auditioning in any way. So we look around. We're like, yeah, there's nobody here. But it said, don't come early. Yeah, let's go get some breakfast, and we'll come back. We go get breakfast. When we come back, the line is 5 hours long.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We were like, our jaws dropped. Like, what did we just do? So we waited in line. I didn't see John Candy. I know John Candy was there doing shtick. But my whole thing was I wanted to audition, but I didn't want to do any monkey stuff because it just seemed kind of weird to me to like audition going, oh, I'm a believer, or anything like that. So what they did was they had 3 tables, and it was like a personality check of some sort, right? To see, So we went to our tables, and the gentleman asked me if I could sing, and I said yeah. So I sang "Ain't That a Lovin' You Baby" by Elvis, and he was like, okay, great. And our plane was leaving that evening, so he said, would you come back tomorrow? And I was like, oh man, I don't know, because I gotta. Yeah, I'll fix it. So I went back. Steve didn't get the call back, so he had to wait for me at the room. So I went back, and this time, we had to, Then I sang a Stray Cat song, and I played drums, and then I had to improvise with a girl, and this was all on a stage. There's like, just people. I've never auditioned. It's not. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I'm trying. I know a little bit about improv, so I had to sell her a rock, and I was coming up with all these like it's a door stopper. It's a it's like it's a defense piece. And she was just negating everything. And I was like,
oh no.
She wasn't even giving me anything. So I was like, okay. All right, okay, thank you. Next, and I was like, wow, that really killed me right there. So I went back to Michigan,
the band Snake Out.
What's funny to me, though, just quickly, is that Larry had mentioned the same thing, that, you know, all these people you see in the video, everyone's doing all these Monkees songs on the video. He didn't, and you didn't, and the two guys that didn't are the ones that got the roles.
Right, he did like In Excess, like yeah. You know, it's kind of weird that way. But I figured they didn't want us, you know, they didn't want to see, you know, thing. You know, why would they want to see that? You know, oh, sorry, I accidentally. Why would they want to? I don't know. That's what I thought. You know, so deep down, I'm thinking, you don't want Monkey. You know, you don't want Micky, David, Peter, and Mike. You want something like you, right? You know, that was my thinking. I think.
Well, I mean, certainly your instincts were spot on. I mean, that's quite often, and it's so interesting because even for seasoned actors, okay, you try to try to go with not necessarily what is expected, because usually surprising somebody or going against the grain when you kind of know everyone else is going to be doing a certain thing is what suddenly allows you to stand out. So for having absolutely no experience, you nailed everything, because that's the other first rule of improv. You don't negate, you don't say no, you don't negate anything. It's right? Yes. And yeah. It's like you feed off, and it's so funny, but obviously you were feeding her enough. So there you go.
Yeah, apparently, you know, well, you know, the other interesting thing was our executive producer, who was also like a surrogate father to me, Steve Blauner, he said, if you look at the clip, that I was holding the microphone and I had my hand like this, like kind of dangling down. And he said the only other performer he'd ever seen do that is Bobby Darin. And he managed Bobby Darin. So, you know, to him, that kind of like clicked for some reason. And it was, you know, I did watch you, Ike, talking about, you know, the audition thing. And by the way, Escape to Witch Mountain, I can't even tell you how that, for me, that was, I remember, I like, there's certain movies, it was Escape to Witch Mountain and The Car, which was a horror film, that as a kid really stood out to me. I mean, wow. It was, so I'm actually honored that I'm on here with you, because not only, and what was, and I also, the movie with the horse with wings.
The Winged Colt, yes. That's another, I tell you, people who see that and remember it were really affected by it. And it means a lot to me, because I really liked it. As kind of like cheesy as it was such a hopeful story. And so I'm really glad to hear that. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And I bullshit you not. And I saw it through the all new Mickey Mouse Club. That's how, like, you know, I think they were playing, you know, because they would play it at some, you know, I think that's where I saw it through, or it might have been even sooner. But anyways, but I remember that, and I remember going, how do they get those wings on that colt?
Yeah.
You have been with like some great, you know, Christopher Lee. Are you kidding? Betty Davis? Dude, you know, you're sitting in the car, you got Betty Davis and Christopher Lee. That's like, you know, the closest I got was, the closest is the professor from Gilligan's Island.
Oh, well.
Oh, yes, well, hey.
Right. Yes, I remember.
Which was a great thing. I love that. But anyways, yeah, props to you, my friend, because
oh, thank you.
That was it was, yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, back to you, my friend.
Oh no, you.
Yeah. So okay, this major audition is happening. You know, it's the new Monkees, and it's a reboot essentially of the Monkees. Was there anyone involved from the original production during the audition process, or did any of them come on board later?
Yeah, they came on board later. I think I think Bert and Bob were kind of sitting in the wings. I think it was, you know, because at that point, I think I always felt like the Monkees were Bert's thing. Bob it was one of the most, I remember Bob coming in and meeting with the 4 new Monkees. And I remember, you know, Bob Rafelson from the show, you know, it's like, you know, and I remember him going, you know, Marty, kind of do this. Jared, you should do a little of this. Larry, you know, blah, 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 blah. Dino, you just keep doing what you're doing. And I was like, you know, on one hand, I was like honored. On another hand, I was like, no, dude, direct, tell me something, you know, because in all honesty, I kind of felt like the new Monkees for me was like a ball of energy that I was using from Back Porch Video. You know, like I didn't feel, there was only a few moments where I kind of felt like we were acting per se, you know. But other than that, I just felt like it was like this like, at least for me, that it was like this ball of energy just going and going. And somewhere deep down, I think I wanted to be, you know, directed, you know, like, or maybe doing something different. I don't know, you know, but yeah, so Bert and Bob sort of, you know, they kind of came in a little bit later from the original, you know, Bert's son was part of the production. Anyways, yeah, no, not really. Not only like Blauner, and then Bert and Bob would like float in and out, you know.
Yeah.
oversee things, you know. Yeah. During some of the early episodes of the original The Monkees, they had the videos of auditions from the original band. Had you seen those episodes, and was there anything like that for you? And did that help you prepare you mentally, I guess, for what was coming?
You know, I did, but to be quite honest, like I remember the Monkees and watching them, but when this whole process came along, is like, with all due respect, you know, when I was playing drums, I wasn't thinking, you know, as a 18, 19, 20-year-old, you know, I'm not thinking Micky Dolenz, I'm thinking Keith Moon. You know, it's like, you know, those are that, you know, it's like, you know, John Bonham, these to me are like Mitch Mitchell, the kick-ass drummers. Mm-hmm. I'm not thinking Micky Dolenz. So, but in terms of show-wise, I don't remember thinking about that. You know, I know I've seen, you know, I had seen the whole interview process, and, you know, I know they wanted something wacky, you know, or something different. But I, you know, and sometimes, you know, I feel like the show, it could have been, it was a really cool premise. And sometimes I feel like we missed, you know, we missed it. We missed the mark, because the premise was you got these 4 guys in a mansion, in a, you know, kind of mysterious sort of mansion, where you open up a door and you walk into a whole new world, you know. And to me, right now, as you know, this older Dino, I'm thinking that sounds actually really cool if you can pull it off. And I think at times we miss the mark. Another complaint. So these are my complaints of the new Monkees now. Is that I didn't feel like you really got to know the characters. Yeah. You know, it was like I was being turned into and we were always being turned into something. And at one point, little side note, I was supposed to turn into Sammy Davis Jr. Yes, this is true. Oh. That would have been funny, because Steve Blauner was close friends with Sammy, and Sammy said he would do it, but the Rat Pack at that time, they started touring again. So the schedules didn't go, but I was like, man, that would have been like, you know, that would have been one great show that I wouldn't have been a part of, but it would have been great.
Well, I agree with you, because that was one of the things that you got to know the Monkees, the original, because of those audition tapes at the end also, that you got to know them as people, and they didn't give you guys that same courtesy.
No, and you know, like a lot of the show, you know, they were just I don't know. It was like they were. Yeah, I don't know. Like you felt for Davy, like when he was about to, like, oh no, his uncle's coming to take him, you know, back to England. You know, you're like, damn, you know. You just didn't really feel for us, you know, much. And I don't know if they were, if it was kind of like the whole MTV generation type thing that they're thinking, like fast, crazy, blah, 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 blah. But you can have the fast and crazy as long as you care for the characters, right? You know, and I just don't think we did enough to care for the characters. You know?
Did you see Larry at all during the earlier stages of the audition? Did you remember seeing him at all?
I don't remember him in New York, but I remember him after the New York thing. There were 9 of us, and so I was in Kentucky. I was on I was 3 weeks into a van tour with Snake Out, and I called my mom from Kentucky, and yet at this point I had forgotten that I auditioned, because I auditioned in July, and this is already like, you know, this is I think September.
Oh.
And she like she's like, they called from Hollywood, they called from Hollywood. And I'm like, who called from Hollywood? I was completely, you know, and then she told me, she said, Steve Blauner, call him at this number, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, oh, okay, yeah. From a bar in Kentucky. And so I called Steve, and Steve basically said, where are you going to be on this date? Hey, Len, where are we going to be? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, we'll be in Portland, Maine. Okay. So I flew, I went to the airport. When we got to Portland, Maine, there was a ticket for me. I flew out here for about 3 days. And that's when I really met like the other 9. So there was Larry, there was Marty, there was Michael Chambers, who was known as Boogaloo Shrimp.
Oh, right.
From the Break-In movies. He was actually, now check this out. He was actually really sweet, really nice. He and I we got along well. So we were doing screen tests. So we were on the set of the new Gidget, and what they were doing is they were just pairing us up. They were doing, you know, one and one. They were doing 2 and, you know, they were just trying to see what's happening. So, and that, you know, that felt good. So there I was. I just got off the set, and there was some other people auditioning. Boogaloo was right next to me, and all of a sudden somebody comes up behind me and taps me on the shoulder, like pap, pap, pap. And I look up, and it's this guy with like sunglasses and a pipe, and he walks away. And I'm like, what the fuck? What was that? You know? And Boogaloo's the first one who said, you know, he was like, dude, you're in. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, that's the man, you're in. And I had no idea what he was talking about, but he was seasoned enough to know, like, and I don't even know how he knew Steve was the executive producer. I'm like, you know, he's got like Hollywood antennas or something. And I don't know, it was, Boo was actually really funny. Anyways, so yeah, that's where I met Larry. And there was another guy who was actually, he went on to do the Blue Man Group. I forgot what his name was. But he started the Blue Man Group. He was one of the 3 guys. But yeah, that's where I sort of met Larry and Marty and Jared.
So how did you end up actually getting notified that you got the part?
I was actually at a shopping mall, the Fairlane Shopping Center in Dearborn, Michigan, when again, I called my mom, I shit you not. And she told me to call Steve Blauner. And I called Steve Blauner from the payphone, collect. And
and he said, you can't say anything, you got to keep this, blah, 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 but you're one of the new Monkees. And I remember I was with my friend Lorenzo Vallone, and I was like, I got it, you know. I had to tell him because he was right there, and he would have thought I was like, you know, insane. So I was at a mall.
Wow.
A payphone.
So what's going through your mind at this time? Are you feeling that this is it, that you had it made now?
A little bit, because it just felt like it was such a big thing to sort of be a part of. Sure. That, you know, that how can it miss?
Yeah, we always think that every single time, or at least that's, you know, it's like you can't go into it not thinking that.
You have to think it's gonna be good, I hope.
Yeah.
You know, but again, I think it was because I wasn't an actor, so I didn't know of like, okay, well, if I don't get this, and you know, then I'll get this, or I'll audition for this, or you know what I'm saying. This was like, I don't know. It just seemed weird.
Yeah, well, it was definitely a whole new world for you. I completely get that. So you get the part, you guys are cast. How long did you all rehearse together to become a more cohesive band?
So they got us a place to rehearse music at SIR Studios. We recorded a couple of little, you know, songs. Was sort of like mixing and producing those. I know he's got the tape, so maybe one day he'll release it. Oh. Because we did the song Day After Day. Remember, you know, Day After Day. Who sang that?
Badfinger?
Oh, Badfinger, thank you. Yes. So we did record that, and I remember it sounding kind of nice. So then we got together with a gentleman by the name of Ed Greenberg, and he sort of helped us sort of get together and do improv and sort of, you know, mesh, you know. Yeah. So how long? We shot the pilot. You know, let me back up. We shot the pilot in November of '86. We didn't have any type of like, we didn't work together. We shot the pilot, and then we went to NAPT in New Orleans, and they sold it it was January, I believe, when they sold it. And then I moved out, and then that's when we started. It was about, it had to have been maybe around March that we started kind of doing the improv things together and playing music together. And then we started shooting in June, mid-June. So everything was pretty fast. You know, it was like, you know, it wasn't, yeah.
Now, when Larry was on, we spoke a little bit about the problem, and I remember even thinking at the time of calling the group the New Monkees, especially at a time when the original group was experiencing, you know, this huge resurgence. Now, do you remember discussing it with the producers? I mean, that you went to them and discussed your concerns about that?
Yeah, because it was like, you know, the whole, what I call regurgitation period of television, you know, it was like the new Gidget, the new Monsters, the new, you know, and we were like, we're 4 different guys, you know, like when you have the new Monsters, you got, you know, Herman and Lily and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And with the New Monkees, you got Dino and Jared and Marty and Larry. So, you know, and honestly, because it was syndicated, so they had to sell it. So it wasn't like, we weren't network like the Monkees, where, you know, you're on NBC and you have, you know, X amount of shows and blah, blah. They needed to sell the show. And I feel that the way they thought to sell it was to call it New Monkees.
you know, at that point, what's 20-year-old Dino gonna say? You know what I mean? I mean, I can say, that's kind of stupid. I quit. You know, it's like, I'll go back to deliver pizzas. So, yeah, I mean, we all voiced our, you know, our opinions about that. We didn't, you know, and yeah.
In your mind, if it's another, because I mean, I know what I think, but in your mind, if it had been called something else, or like maybe another year later after that, would that be a success? Like
totally, because and I thought about it. I was talking about this with a friend, right? It's like they threw us in right when the Monkees just got a new group of young, you know, fans, right? So it was like, so this new group of young, you know, rabid fans, you know, now see this new Monkees thing. Of course they're gonna like be pissed, you know what I mean? But if you would have waited a little bit, you know, maybe a year and a half after all that, because also, you know, the Monkees had plans for things. We're gonna do a movie, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. And nothing really came to fruition with that, you know? So at that point, it would have been nice, like a year and a half later, after, you know, everything sort of, you know, kind of died down, then it could have been like the Kids from Caper. You know, I watched the Kids from Caper because I thought that it was the closest thing to the Monkees, you know? And I had the album. I still listen to the songs, the Kids from Caper, believe it or not. Don't laugh, Ike.
I'm not. No. Don't make me laugh.
and yeah, I think we could have been named something different a year and a half later, and it could have been from the producers of the Monkees, and I think it would have probably had a better shot. But
it's so interesting because that's such a good point. There's so many different ways to bring across the Monkees legacy in a new show, other than just calling it the new Monkees. And yeah, that timing thing just didn't seem to make sense. So at what point did you start hearing the backlash from the Monkees fans and from, you know, good grief, the Monkees themselves?
From the get-go. You know, I mean, we were getting letters. We were, you know, like, you know, lives being threatened, and it's, you know, by 14-year-old girls, you know. And if it was today, I'd be afraid, because, you know, you can go get a gun nowadays. Back then it was like, what are you gonna do? Hit me with a pillow? But yeah, right from the get-go, you know, I was meeting with Monkey, you know, the presidents of Monkey fan clubs, because I was trying to, you know, make the point, look, man, we're not here to replace them. We can't replace them. We don't want to replace them. And we got our own thing to do. So, you know, I remember going into the president of one fan club gal, and as I walked in to make my case, all I saw was Monkey memorabilia, like everywhere, pictures. And I swear to God, I'm like, I just walked into the Lion's Den. And I'm like, you know, what did I do? You know, and she was nice, and I made my case, and I think she appreciated that I was trying to make my case. And that's, you know, I think unofficially I was out to do that, all the way to the point where Micky Dolenz I met him for the first time at the Detroit Auto Show. Jonathan, have you heard this story or no?
I'm not sure I heard this one at the auto show. I don't think I've heard that one.
Like, I don't think you've heard it.
Oh no, definitely not.
So a friend of mine who was a DJ, a Detroit DJ, he was introducing Micky Dolenz at the auto show. And I was like, hey man, get me up front, you know, because there was this long line of like girls primarily. And at the time, there's some pictures out there. At the time, if I didn't have my hair up in a pompadour, I would wear it long, and it was kind of like curly and stuff. And I had my Greek sailor hat, and I had a winter coat. I'm like, who's gonna, you know, I'm pretty much incognito here. So so my friend got me up to up on the stage, you know, because he was on these risers.
and I walk up to Mickey. I was handed a 8x10 of his picture, and I handed it to him, and he goes, "Oh, so who did I make this out to?" And I said, "Dino." And he totally, like, he's ready to write, and he looks up at me, and he's staring at me. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm one of the new guys," and I'll never forget this. And I said, "Can we talk?" You know, and he was like, "Yeah, sure. My assistant will, yeah, just go down over here and we'll get a room." So his assistant, he and I, we walked into this room at this convention center. It was like this dark room, and now that I start thinking about it, I'm like, he could have killed me. Or I could. And we had a conversation, and again, I praised him, and I was like, "Man, Dolan Jones' voice and heart, you know, blah blah blah." I gave him the whole thing, you know. And
I've heard this.
You haven't heard that?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I was praising him because he was a hero of mine. You know, it was like I'm sitting here talking to Micky Dolenz, you know, so I was completely praising, and then he said, "Yeah, but you know, it's kind of like taking pointy ears and putting," and he still uses that line, putting pointy ears on somebody and having a new Dr. Spock. And I was ready to go, "It's actually Mr. Spock," but I didn't. I held my tongue. To my elder, and that's when I knew, you know, he said, "Well, we'll let the," I think he said, "We'll let the lawyers," or something.
Wow.
And I was like, "Okay," you know, I'm just trying to be nice here, you know. So we walked back, and that was that. And that's when I knew, like, okay, they don't really want to have anything to do with us, and that's fine. And I've been trying, but I'm still gonna kick ass because I went from delivering pizzas to doing this. So
Are you surprised that they themselves, I mean, I get the fans, but were you surprised that they themselves, like, were kind of like bad mouthing you a little bit? I mean, that, you know, that they took it upon themselves to bad mouth the group?
well, I think there was other things at play. You know, I think there was like legally wise, if they can use the name, if they can. I think that was also in play. So I can see them being like, you know, kind of talking smack because they're out there. They got this resurgence. I get it. I totally get it. But it wasn't our fault. You know, it wasn't like, it's like, okay. And then the next time that we saw, that we all saw Micky and Peter was, we were recording the Turn It Up. And which
Larry said to ask you about this incident because he said that you were there, that he was not in the bathroom. So we have to hear this. So
yeah, no, I was definitely, and I know. Wait, Larry said he was. Yeah, it was Marty.
He was in the bathroom at the time.
Yeah, it had to have been Marty because I know there was someone in front of me and we were going out for smoke. So it had to have been like Jared and Marty. I didn't smoke, but I'm going to hang out with my fellas. So I didn't even think that the Monkees were in the next, you know, studio recording, you know. But as we're walking out, it was Micky and Peter was closest. And as we were walking out, the smartass 20-year-old Dino, as he's walking past Peter, poked him in the stomach and went, "Hoo-hoo-hoo," and I kept walking. And, you know, I got to tell you, it was funny at the time. But now I'm thinking, how stupid was that? You know, like, you know, but then again, I'm thinking that could have been, you know, that could have been a summit. You know, that could have been like, "Look, fellas, we don't blah, blah, blah. We should have talked." Somebody above the new Monkees should have tried to make that happen. You know what I mean? It shouldn't have been up to Larry, Marty, Dino, and Jared to try to, you know, to you know what I mean? So I don't know. You know.
But when the backlash first started, when the backlash first started coming, is in your mind then the first, you know, pangs of, I guess, worry that this is not what they were telling you, that this is not going to work out like they were telling you?
I don't think I ever had that like in my head, because we did a lot of cool things. I can definitely say we did a lot of cool things with a lot of the short, kind of films that we did. We had the guy who did Mr. Bill, William. He came on and he did 4 individual shorts with us. So that fast food driving school, I don't know. So anyways, so we had a lot of younger directors come in and do short subject things with us, and those were actually really cool. And some of the music videos were actually really cool. I don't know if you, like Catherine Hardwicke of the Twilight fame. Mm-hmm. She directed the first Twilight. She actually started in the art department. Wow. She directed a few of our music videos. You know what I mean? So it was a really cool family atmosphere where people can try to create. Now the 15-minute episodic part, that left a lot to be desired. But as as a whole, the show, we did a lot of cool stuff.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, well, considering all that, did you have any input in the making of the show or any of the music you guys performed?
Larry and Marty did, as far as the music. I was there for the ride. As a matter of fact, music wise, Turn It Up, I think Larry was supposed to demo that, and then Larry was like, yeah, maybe Dino should try it. And then I demoed it. We went there, I sang it, and people were like, hey, wait a minute, because I'm not a singer, I'm a singer in the bathroom, I pretend that I can sing, but I'm not a singer. So, but as far as musically, Marty and Larry had, more say in that. Show-wise, not really. I think I felt that I was on autopilot. It's like, give me a script, let's go. Yeah, and I kind of wish it wasn't like that, but it was.
I was going to ask about that because, I remember at the time that Larry had been kind of being pushed to the face of the new Monkees, and then you were the one that sang the theme song. So
push as the face.
You know what? Whenever I saw interviews at the time, it was like always pushing Larry out there, and he had that hair, first of all.
We call it a mane. It was a mane.
Now, one of the things that, even though it was supposed to be a whole new group, and I discussed this also before, they kind of gave you and it's funny, you just mentioned Micky Dolenz, they kind of gave you the personas that they wanted you to emulate, I guess, a little bit. And they kind of thrust you into that Micky Dolenz type role as well.
You're wrong, my friend.
Oh, really?
I will tell you right now, you're wrong, because I was funny before
yes.
And that's why I'm saying, I felt that the Dino character on the new Monkees was an extension of the Back Porch character. If you go watch Back Porch, it's just like Steve and I just energy towards the camera, just like bam. And that's what I feel like I brought. So, whether they thought that they found another Micky or whatever, because I thought Micky was brilliant. As a funny guy, I thought they were all brilliant, but that comparison is not I had, to me, Lou Costello, my heroes were always like Lou Costello and Micky Dolenz, growing up as a kid, so is there certain rhythms? Is there certain things? But Lou Costello was definitely, because I used to love to play like that. What? Lou Costello, what? I just messed up something, So, anyways, yeah. But
yeah, I'll always defend myself against the Mickey.
I think because you were the funny drummer, and that's that's kind of just the comparison that I guess the natural thought process.
Yeah, I could play drums. No, I'm not saying he didn't learn how to play drums. No. But you know what, as a kid watching the Monkees show, I'm not looking at his hands as he's like playing and singing. I'm not looking at it. But as a 15, 16-year-old drummer, I'm looking at his hands going, he's not really playing, or whatever. So, I jest, I'm playing a little bit. But like I said, I go back to as a young drummer, to me is like, Keith Moon, Mitch Mitchell, these are like the drummers. So when I say like, yeah, I could play, yeah, I think, and through the years, it's actually interesting. And I always knew Michael Nesmith had a hand in the music industry even prior to the Monkees, which I think is a fault that wasn't, you could find that out if you dig now, because you have the internet, you have this, you can find out, oh, really? He was really, but you didn't know that. I didn't know that, growing up. I'm not thinking, anyways, I'm not going to digress. But.
No, you just mentioned about the show, that some of the things we talked about. Did you voice any of your concerns to the producers about the show?
No, it was too short of a time. It was, it was a really fast. I mean, we were working 16-hour days, so it was like, once we were done shooting part of an episode, we were off. We had a little stage on the other side where we were doing music videos. So it was like we were tired. It wasn't laid back at all. I mean, it was like fast. So it wasn't, if we would have had a second year or even a full year, maybe things could have calmed down, but we like cranked episodes out. And I don't think it helped us, actually. But again, I wasn't the producer. I don't know what the schedule was. I don't know what the budget was or whatever. But obviously, we didn't have money for writers. So for the episodic parts. So here's an interesting story. Bert Schneider, who was an executive producer on the new Monkees, he got into a little tiff with the Writers Guild, and it was over Easy Rider 2, right? So I think he didn't. There was some issue. He hired someone to write Easy Rider 2. I don't know why. Stop it. And he didn't want to pay the writer. And the writer was a union writer. And the union basically said anything Bert Schneider's involved with, no writers. We had no writers. I mean, it was like, with all due respect, Jared had some friends who wrote an episode. But we, yeah. It was like, Dino, you want to write? No. I'm not going to take the fall.
When did you start thinking this is not going to make it? When did you start that occurring?
I don't. There was a chance that we could get. I was always optimistic. There was a chance where we can get the back 9, and it never came. And it was during, I remember the not late night. Anyways, yeah. So, we just, and in this town, if it's a no, you just don't hear it. They don't say, okay, we're not doing the back 9, they just don't tell you. So we were all like waiting, you know. And as you probably know, if you don't hear, it's a no, right? So, but here we were like, you know, hanging, going, maybe they'll call, maybe, you know. Anyways, so I don't know. I don't quite remember when. I remember shooting that music video and thinking this is the last thing. I do remember that. I remember the set. I can't remember the song right now. But anyways, yeah, there was a point.
So there was no actual conversation about the show being canceled. You just never heard anything again.
Correct.
God, okay, yes, I've heard stories like that, but and it's awkward. It's very weird when a show is not going to go forward. But it seems like when I did Fantastic Journey, okay, my first opportunity to do a series, we were going to shoot 12 episodes. We made it to 10. The ratings were bad. We all knew the ratings were not good, but they finally said to us, this is our last episode. So they at least gave us that courtesy rather than having us shoot it and then just not calling us again. So yeah, that's incredible. That's wow. That's incredible.
It's and it, you know, and I'm honestly, I'm trying to think of the song. I remember when we were shooting, I knew that we weren't going to get picked up because our line producer and dear friend Marlon Staggs let us shoot more film for this music video.
Oh, no, see, that's an interesting tell.
Yeah. So it was like, you know, it was like, yeah, load it again. It was like, oh, okay. All this time he's been saving money, you know, and now he's like, yeah, just go. And I'm like, yeah, we're fucked. You know, nobody ever tells you to shoot more, you know.
Wow.
You know, unless you're, you know.
One thing that I see which impresses me is that the four of you are still good friends. I mean, was that straight through, or is it more of a reconnecting years later?
No, it's pretty much been straight through. I mean, I remember, you know, yeah, Marty and I lived at one point when I moved back here in like '99. Marty and I lived like 3 blocks away. So I can't even tell you what it's like to have Marty just like, hello. It's like, I'm naked, you know. Anyways, yeah.
We're interviewing Marty next week, actually. So, there are a lot of videos online of the four of you just jamming together and singing and hanging out. It's like you guys seem like you really enjoy each other's company. I mean, how often are you in contact still today?
Oh, we're always in contact. We talk often, you know. I mean, you know, often. So, and Marty and I will go have lunch. Jared's always working. I mean, he's like the workhorse. He's always off working on some film or something. But I see Marty often, and Larry not so much, but we're always in contact. But yeah, it's been like, you know, friends straight through, and I like to, you know, these little get-togethers that we have. I think a lot of people try to be like, it's a reunion. It's like, nah, it's just a get-together, you know. Like one of them I call a pizza party, because a friend of mine had a studio in the Valley, and we literally had a pizza party. We ordered pizza. I brought drinks, and not all of them, you know, non-alcoholic, and we had a pizza party. And
that video was so much fun to watch, by the way. That one when you guys were at the pizza place.
Yeah, you know. So I don't like to call it, you know, I don't like it to be like it's a reunion, or we, you know, just, you know, whenever we get a chance, we try to do it. And obviously we're, you know, not in it for the money. You know, it's fun to do, you know.
Well, in the past few years, there's been a definite renewed interest in the new Monkees. When did that start happening, and when did you become aware of it?
I think it really started happening when Marty played, what's that theater? Marty played where Micky played with the guy from the Rascals. Marty opened up. He didn't open up for. He just, anyways. And then he invited me to do Turn It Up. So it was like the first time that that it was ever played live, actually. So we were Dorothy. No, not Dorothy. Anyways, and then we met a gal, Jody, who was working with Micky, and she kind of hooked up this thing where it was like a charity at a bowling alley in the valley, and then it was like karaoke, because Micky goes around and he does like karaoke with Micky, and he gives to charity. And Marty and I showed up, and it was a Micky event, and Marty and I showed up, and all these like Monkee fans are like, and we were like, should we not be here? And it actually ended up being a fun night. We sang we karaoke'd with Micky and Coco and the girl from the Dukes of Hazzards.
Catherine Bach.
Yes, thank you. I'm so bad with names, but I'll never forget your face. And that was fun, and I think that sort of broke the ice for a lot of people, because they saw Marty and myself talking to Micky, and Micky's laughing, we're laughing, we're not insulting, you know what I'm saying? So I think that was the first time where people were like, hey, look, they can get along. And it's like, yeah, I guess so. So I think that was the first time, and I think that was like 2018, maybe.
Well, and speaking, you run the New Monkees Facebook page, which always has a ton of people interacting. I'm frequently on there, and you could just see the love that these people have for the group. What made you decide to start the group, and how gratifying is it for you to see the love that people have for all of you?
My whole thing was, I was, everybody's figured out that I was the one when YouTube first started. I threw on like New Monkee sort of clips. And then from YouTube, there was a Yahoo group that sort of grew, and it was just a small group of, I don't know, 50 people, 100, I don't know. So then I actually put the episodes on DVDs, and I was in the position where I could duplicate real fast and stuff. So I would send them for only the cost of postage, so that this small Yahoo group would get the DVDs. From the Yahoo group, then Facebook came along, and then I think everything kind of moved to Facebook. And yeah, man, it's fun because I have some stuff. I have old pictures. I have, and I know that there's a small group of people. I'm not thinking that there's millions of people, or I'm not thinking that, I not at all. I have other aspirations, as you know. But it's fun because I got old pictures, and anytime I hear bad mouthing about New Monkees, I always say, yeah, but you know what? There was somebody that we touched. Somebody enjoyed it. And I do it for those people who enjoyed it, and I'm not, I'm not to making buck off the New Monkees, So.
Well, speaking of other projects, we want to talk about. You produced and directed the film. Let's go to that one first. Sleeping Dogs Lie, which is available on Amazon Prime. Can you tell us about that one, and what was it like for you to direct?
It was, that has always been my love, like wanting to make things. As a matter of fact, I remember my dear friend Marlon Staggs, who was a line producer on the New Monkees. He always knew that if the New Monkees went, that was kind of the avenue that I would want to take. I tried really hard to, I had funds to make a hot rod horror film, which I'm still trying to find funds for, called Roadkill. and it's about this small town girl who comes back home with her boyfriend. Her boyfriend ingests this parasite, that starts growing inside of him, and he starts killing people. So, so I had the money for that, and one of the investors backed out, and it crushed me because I was ready to shoot. So then I used to work for a company called Rhythm and Hue Studios. I was an editor over there, and we did little film. We were visual effects animation, like the Life of Pi, the House of Pies. Anyways, so I was sitting in my little suite, and a friend came by, and he was also a filmmaker, and he was like, "You know what, man? You should just do something with only 3 characters. Very minimal, locations, and just shoot it digitally." And I was like, because we were going to shoot film for Roadkill. So I came up with a concept. I had a friend write the screenplay, and another friend came by, my friend Mitch, and I told him the idea of this sleeping dogs thing, and I was like, "Yeah, man, and I'll do it for real cheap, and yeah." And he goes, "Okay." And I'm like, "Okay, what?" He goes, "I'll give you the money." And I was like, "What?" Like out of the blue, it's like, where did that come from? So Mitch, Mitch Matzkin is his name. He gave me he made it possible that we can make sleeping dogs, and we went and we shot it. We finished it. We tried to get, we got out there. It's got minimal, distribution, but it's got some. So now we're working on 2 other projects.
Well, we want to discuss one of them. You mentioned the other one also, but I read the synopsis and the clip for your new project, For the Best, and we're going to post it. We're going to post a video in here too. But from the synopsis, all right, harrowing and tense are perfect words to describe it. So can you tell us about that project and how that came about?
Yeah. Well, it's a story about, a single parent, a woman with 2 young kids. She happens to be Greek. And does this sound familiar?
Doesn't matter.
And basically, it's set, in the early 70s, and she decides to take a chance on love. So she hooks up with this man, and little do they know, he's got some dark secrets, and he begins to mentally and physically abuse each one of them individually, one not knowing that it's happening to the other. And as the story progresses, we figure out that, the characters figure out that they're not alone in this. So yeah, it's kind of a horror film, horror in the sense that, this guy's, mentally and physically abusing a mom and her 2 kids.
That's some tough luck there. You could just pick it up. Go ahead. It's only 1 part touching ground. The rest is fine. When a man wants something bad enough, he'll do anything to get it.
it's based on some true things. So that's all I'm going to say, because I'm not going to do an Oprah thing.
Well, I got to tell you, reading it, you were gracious enough. You sent me the synopsis. Reading it, I was getting all tensed up reading the synopsis, and I was like, I kept going through like, please don't let anything bad happen. Please don't let anything bad happen. and that's what, it just got me in the chest. Being a parent, especially, you start thinking the kid, you start putting your kids in this situation. And I don't want to spoil it, but when it comes out, I urge everyone to go see it, because I was getting worked up just reading the synopsis. But being a parent, it also got to me. And like I said, I had trouble finishing the synopsis, even just like, because it was all tense.
Yeah, no, and some of the things that have happened, that actually happened, that will be in there. It's like you can't make this stuff up, and it was difficult for me, because it's also difficult for my mom to know that this kind of story is coming out. But and it's for the most part seen through the eyes of this 7-year-old boy. So it's a bit gut wrenching, but it's So what we're doing now with the clip that I sent you, we sort of did kind of like a proof of concept. So it's not it's not a piece of the film. It's basically, well, as you know, I'm all about, well, I don't know if you know, but I'm all about, looking for funds to produce stuff. Independent film is hard, It's like, doing the John Cassavetes, School of Filmmaking. And he's one of my heroes as well, in terms of, how to get things done, which real quick, anyways, no. So we're out, trying to raise funds for this, and with, I'm giving you like a short piece of what we've done. This is something that we're going to show to potential investors, to potential organizations that, deal with spousal abuse, child abuse, and, see what we can come up with in order to produce the film.
Well, if anyone watching this, reach out to Dino on his Facebook page. Also, I don't know if you're personal, your the New Monkees page. If anyone wants to invest in this, because I was like, riveted. Now I do want to ask you now, and I'm sorry that you said this is personal experience there. So I'm sorry that if anything personal there, was it cathartic at all for you to do this?
Yeah, very, very. And as a matter of fact, one of the things that I put in another short film that I made, something that this character had done, and it was when my mom saw it, and my mom knew what happened. I just had to explain to her I needed to get it out. Like, I'm okay. I don't feel like I always had a strong, I was tight with my uncles, with my grandparents. I don't, I feel okay. Although some people can argue, they can argue that. But yeah, it was very cathartic, and I had to tell my mom that, like, this is just me expressing so I can get it out. That's all. I'm not, yeah. But yeah, it was pretty. You
mentioned this. I'm not aware. You said there was another new project. Well, that I'm not aware of. Can you discuss that one?
Well, this For the Best is the new project.
Okay.
Roadkill is like a project that I've been I'm talking to a few people right now. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Ike, you can attest to this.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Right. Hey, Ike, I got a role for you. No, but it's one of those things, So I hold down the day job, and then I try to find funds to make independent films.
Well, I can already tell the answer. I think the answer to this question, but do you find you prefer to be behind the camera more or in front of the camera?
I prefer behind the camera, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know. I mean, it's one of those things where it's like I don't want to I just don't. I just don't have the energy to like get headshots and go do this or go do that, and But if I have a friend who's like, hey man, I think you want to help me out with this, I'd be like, yeah, and that'd be fun. But I just don't. I don't want to make a business out of going out and trying to be an actor. Man, it's
oh yeah, I know. Yeah, believe yes, I do.
I know. You're like it, man. And I mean, who's a good friend of mine is. Do you remember Close Encounters?
Oh yeah,
of course.
Do you remember Richard Dreyfuss's oldest son?
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, that's Sean Bishop. He was, I met him years ago in an acting class, and he went to USC Film School with my good friend Steve Turner, and I met him that way, and we actually studied at Stella Adler, the conservatory of Stella Adler back in the 90s, and we joked to each other because he knew I was a new monkey, and I knew he was, in Close Encounters. And I'll never forget it. He goes, yeah, you know what we have in common? I said, what's that? He goes, we both blew our loads early. I was like, yeah. I was like, anyways. So, yeah. Sorry about that. But yeah, I'll never forget him saying that.
Oh. That's hilarious.
If Sean ever wants to come on, extend that invitation for us too. So
yeah, well, he's as a favor to me, he was actually in my short film In the Bag. He's I think that's on Vimeo. But yeah, he totally did it as a favor. I'm like, come on, dude. He's like, but yeah, he's funny, and he's a great friend.
Well, like I said, invitation's open for him. And before we let you go, and I thank you, you've been so gracious with your time. Before we let you go, because I'm going to post this on the New Monkees page, so of course I have to ask, any plans to get together again and perform?
Well, I'm just going to leave it off on this look.
And it's perfect for our audio only audience. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Oh, I forgot.
It's both, right?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, I can't wait.
Be a pizza party or something. If there's a pizza party, you guys want to go?
I would love to be there.
Sure.
All right. Well, we'll see what we can do if there's a pizza party happening.
Like you said, huge fan. How often do fans reach out to you still?
It's kind of, I don't know. They'll reach out, through the Facebook thing, but I think we keep kind of active, so I feel like maybe they don't feel like they need to reach out.
You are very engaged. You engage a lot on there.
Engaging, thank you.
Yes.
We try to engage with the like I said, it may be a small group, but it's a fun, loyal group,
I was telling Ike this when I posted on the New Monkees page. There were tons of comments that how much they loved the interview, and they said, "Oh, Ike was really great." And like, hello, who posted this?
Ike is great.
Right, that's true. That is true. I'm very true. He tells me all the time.
I'm honored, and honestly, I mean, what Ike has done, the fact that you're so humble. Seriously, man. I mean, really is really, it's refreshing, And one day maybe I'll tell you my story about Leif Garrett and Justine Bateman at the Ronnie Wood Art Gallery showing.
Oh, wow. I can
You-
just
you
imagine.
You can say this
that.
now, or if you'd like, but you want to wait till off here.
No, I mean, do we got time? I can tell you. It's a funny.
Of course. I
Oh,
want to keep you.
absolutely.
Cut it out if you want later.
No, we get ratings.
Okay, so because the New Monkees had the same A&R people as the Rolling Stones, we would get invited to certain things. At the time, our person, her name was Cheryl Soretti, and she invited me, and she sent us an invite to me and Steve to go to Ronnie Wood had an art showing, and I actually still have the invite. And so Steve and I, we go. We have no idea what an art gallery, we went in jeans, leather jackets. Like we had no idea, how to show up. So Steve Herniak was a huge Rolling Stones fan. I enjoyed the Rolling Stones, but Steve was just loved the Rolling Stones. So he was like, cloud nine. So we get in there and we're looking around. We're like, wow, Ronnie Wood's actually a phenomenal artist. And we're looking around. All of a sudden, Ronnie Wood walks out from this door, right? And Steve goes, let's go. So we walk up to Ronnie Wood, and he goes, I forgot what Herniak said, real casual. He looks at Ronnie and he goes, my favorite Stones album is Beggar's Banquet, and Ronnie goes, he had a cigarette in his mouth. He goes, I think he said tattoo you. He goes, mine's tattoo you. And he just laughed really loud. And me and Steve were like, oh, God. Like, what was that? So we had some words with Ronnie Wood, and that was really cool. And then we started walking around, and then Steve comes up to me and goes, hey, she just shot me a dirty look. I'm like, who? So he points, and it was Justine Bateman. And so at the time I was like, she gave you a dirty look? And he was like, yeah. So I walk up there, and Leif Garrett was kind of behind her, and I had a toothpick in my hand, and I kind of like looked at her and I was like, you're all right. And then Leif Garrett goes, and I was like, I totally looked at him and I was like, what are you at? And it was like a defense mechanism because I was a nobody, and it's like, so then I walk away, and all of a sudden, people start talking about us, and we're still trying to enjoy the show. And granted, I'll say I was probably a bit of an asshole. But anyways, again, it was a defense thing. I had a chip on my shoulder. I'm a nobody. The show wasn't, I don't even think that the show was on yet. So then there was like they were giving us mean looks and talking and all that. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, one of the photographers that knew me from Bop magazine yelled out, hey, Dino, can I get a picture of you? And I was like, what? And this guy started snapping pictures of me and Steve. And now everybody started going, who is that? Who is that? Oh my God, someone's here. It was like that whole Hollywood bullshit thing, they're taking his picture, so they must be somebody. And then he was like, come on out. There was a Harley Davidson outside. And he was like, get on the bike. Me and Steve get on the bike and we're taking pictures. And I'm still trying to find out who that photographer was because I want those pictures. It was just kind of funny because it was. I'm not always proud of stuff I did.
When the movie comes out, first of all, we would love to have you back if you want to come on and discuss it then. And again, it's been so much fun, and thank you so much. You've been so gracious with your time. Thank you.
Oh, please, it's an honor. It truly is an honor. So thank you. Thank you.
Again, this has been Pop Culture Retro. I'm Jonathan Rosen with Ike Eisenmann. And again, a very special thanks to Dino Kovas. And please subscribe.
Thank you for listening to Pop Culture Retro, where no one was hurt during the making of this podcast.